Hello and welcome to The Talk with Tariro. As a result of the HIV and AIDS epidemic and other factors, the level of poverty in our country has risen. This has led to social life and social ills such as early marriages, teen pregnancies, which lead to school dropouts. These practices, when we are looking at them, they put adolescent girls and young women at risk of contracting HIV. As a result, with this particular episode, we are looking at the risks that are associated with girls dropping out of school for motherhood and early marriages, and how best they can be protected from HIV and other issues that they face on a regular basis. On the program today, we are joined by Tracy Chafuka, who is a community activist, to really give us community perspectives when we are looking at this particular issue. Tracy, welcome to The Talk. Yes. Ndoda kunzwa kubva kwauri kana takatarisa situation yevasikana mucommunity yakamira sei tichitarisa isusu dambudziko rekuti vana vanobata pamuviri votadza kuenda kuchikoro, voregera kuenda kuchikoro, vochita vana votanga mhuri nekukurumidza.
Chekutanga ndoda kutaura maererano nesituation yevana vasikana. Isusu tichikura makurire danga akanaka. Now tatarisa zvinhu zvivana vari kusangana nemachallenges akasiyana siyana. Like vana vanenge vafirwa vaivai kana kuti vana vanenge vaine vabereki vanenge vaseparate. Ndakatarisa negirl child. Vana vari padambudziko nokuti vamwe vacho vanoenda nababa, vanotakurwa nababa voenda kunogara nababa. Baba havakwanise kutarisa vana nguva nenguva. Nyangwe dai vasingashandi asi havakwanise kuswera nevana like zvinoitwa namai. Mai vakaenda nevanawo idambudziko zvekare. Vana vari kubatwa zvibharo. Vana vari kumanikidzwa kubata mabasa. Takatarisa futi kunhau yezvitendero. Vana vari kumbunyikidzwa kuita zvimwe zvisina zera navo. Saka vana vari panguva yakaoma yezvinhu zvekuti tatarisa kunyanya takatarisa neCovid-19 yezvinhu vana vari kudzungaira nekuda kwokutoshaya zvekutoita. Vamwe vacho vana vangu vachienda zvavo kuchikoro but nenhau yekuti kutoshaya zvekuita kuri kubva kwavaita kuti vapinde mune zvimwe zvinhu zvisina kunaka.
Vana vari kusangana nematambudziko iwayo. Tochitarisa isusu tichienda pavana vaya vari kubata pamuviri. Sekumbotaura kwandaita pekutanga. Muchitarisa zviri kuitika mucommunity, vari kukwanisa here kudzokera kuzvikoro?
Zviri pakati nepakati. Vamwe vana vari kuda, mwoyo yavo inoda, but nenhau yeself stigma yavanenge vainayo
iri kubva kune vamwe kuti
patori iye kuti inini zvandane mwana ndakutonzi amai saka handichakodzera kuenda pane umwe mwana. Kozoti zvimwe zvachona stigma yachona iri kutobva kuchikoro kwacho kuti iwewe watova amai saka hatikwanise kuwadzana newe kana kushamwaridzana chaiko newe. Saka vamwe vana vakutozeza kutoenda kuchikoro kwacho nyangwe dai mwoyo yavo ichida. Kozoti vamwewo vana vari kukwanisa kuenda through support inenge ichibva kumaorganization like takatarisa mashambanzou iri kuzodzosera vana kuchikoro kana mwana ari willing kudzokera kuchikoro. Saka vamwe vari kudzokera vamwe havasi kukwanisa kudzokera.
Isusu kana takatarisa izvozvo zvokuti tiri kunzwa kuti vamwe vana vari kudzokera vamwe vari kutadza kudzokera, kana takatarisa mutemo pabumbiro rakatoitwa nenyika riri kutaura iro kuti vana kunyange amboita pamuviri mwana anofanirwa kuenderera mberi nechikoro mushure mekunge asununguka. Vanhu vari kuzvitambira here? Tanzwa kuti kune stigma irikoko iri kutoratidza kuti kutambirika kwacho kuri kunetsa. Poita yekuti self stigma yavataura yekuti ndegawo pachangu ndozvibvunza kuti zvinonda mai ndodzokera kunogara padeski nevamwe zvichinenge saka zvogadziriswa sei ipapo?
Ini ndiri kuti inini kuvana vacho dai varegedza kuora mwoyo nekuti pamiri pachona pari kuuya nenzira dzakasiyana siyana. Pamwe pachona ndopekubhinywa. Pabhinywa kudaro pakunonoka kumhangarwa zvoita kuti nhumbu isvike pakutadza even kuti mwana abviswe nokuti mutemo unoti kana iri yekubhinywa inokwanisa kubviswa. Pazvimwe zvachona zviri kubva zvanonoka nemafambiro anoita nyaya dzacho. Saka ndiri kuti nini iye mwana pache zvake ngaaregedze kuzvidzikisira kuti zvandaamai nokuti vakuru vakati kudzidza hakuperi. Saka mwana ngaadzokere kuchikoro. Nesuwo mhuri yeZimbabwe ngatiregedzei kuzonge kuseka, nokuti nyangwe dai mwana asina hake kubhinywa, vana handikwanise kumuti regedza kuita izvi nokuti nguva zhinji handigare naye. Chingoripo ndechekuti ngatikwanise kuchengetedza vana vedu kuti varegedze kupinda mazviri, nyangwe dai apinda mazviri nokuti anenge ari ega. Ngatiregedze kuvaseka kuti vana vakontinye nedzidzo yavo, nokuti kana mutemo wedu watendera kuti mwana anokwanisa kukontinya kuenda kuchikoro, ngatichingozvisapotai zvogara zvakadaro.
Tinombonzwa rimwe dambudziko rinenge richitaurwa rekuti izvo kana kuchikoro kwacho chero maticha chaiwo havasi kukwanisa kuzvitambira kuti mwana uyo adzoka kuchikoro iye ambe ingaita pamuviri. Muri kumbosangana nevana here vanenge vachiva vachiti kana ticha chaiko mabatirwo andiri kuita kuchikoro haasi kuita, zvoita kuti mwana ati handicharambi ndichienda kuchikoro, pano ndotoda kuchinja chikoro nokuti uku ndiri kusekwa, ndoda kuenda kune vanhu vasingazivi ndakamboita pamuviri.
Ya ichokwadi. Pakumaticha zviriko nokuti maticha ndambotaura nyaya yekuti kuvabereki, saka ticha muberekiwo variko nekuti vanenge vakutongoona kunge vakada kunoenzana. Saka pane mamwe mapinduriro ekuti ticha anogona, mwana anogona kutaura zvine musoro, ticha vane matauriro avanogona kuita, uyezvo ticha vanogona kuda kutaura sort of kuda kutsura kana kuda kuonesa mwana akuitawo unge futi nokuti ndatove mubereki. Saka panhu pachona pakutongoda kuti ticha neni mwana tibatirane kuti tigone kushandidzana.
Saka iyo nyaya yekunzi madropouts aya ekuti vana vakuregera chikoro ari kunzi ari kuwanda, zvingaitwe sei, zvakamira sei?
Nhau iripo ndeyekuti vana ngava zvakaoma hazvo, asi kune vabereki kana kuti vachengeti ndo vamwe vari kukonzera kuti vana vatadze kuenderera mberi nedzidzo. Nenhau yekuti vamwe vachona, dzimwe inherera ndasiyirwa mwana, ndine vana vangu, vamwe vachona vane usaro rwavainaro, kwozoti pamwe pachona zvichokwadi zvakaoma. Mwana anokwanisa kupa mwana chikafu zvekuti mwana anogutsikana kuti panapa ndiri kupiwa chikafu, panapa ndiri kupiwa kupfeka kuenzaniswa nevana vari pano, asi pamwe panapa hapana. Saka ndachifunga kuti inini kana pane vanokwanisawo kubatsira, angava maorganization kana angava machechi kana nharaunda, kuti vana vedu ngatingomutorai semwana nokuti dzidzo yakadi yakakosha. Toita kuti nokuti mwana tikamurega achirega chikoro zvinokonzeresa kuti azopinda mune zvimwe zvinhu like akuita zvemadrugs. Kumadrugs ikoko akuzoita pamiri pasina kurongeka kana kutozotapurirwa HIV medzisiro zvakutozomukanganisa.
Ivo vanasikana havangaitei kuti vazvichengetedze?
Vana vasikana panhu ipapa pakati omei. Ini ndachifunga kuti sezvo mutemo wedu wakati hatikwanise kuti mwana usaite zvebonde, protection iriko, mwana ngaazvichengetedze kubva pane zvepabonde pacho kana kutozvidzivirira kutopinda mazviri zvachose kutozviti nokuti inini ndiri mwana handifaniri kukurumidza kupinda mazviri, ndimirire nguva. Zvida zvechikoro zvarema, kurarama kwacho kuri kunetsa, zvinana atsvage zvimwe zvinhu zvekuita, isiri child labor, nokuti vana havazoda kupiwa mutoro. Vopota vachienda kumasupport groups, ndakundikana kuchengeta mwana, kana kune kuri kuungana vana, kuri kudzidziswa vana like zvinoita mashambanzo, ine to the lions yainoita. Saka ngatichengetedze vana vedu tingoita kuti vange vanobatirana nevamwe.
We'll continue with our discussion after this break. Welcome back. We continue with our discussion where we are looking at the issue of girls dropping out of school due to early unintended pregnancies. And now on the program, I'm joined by Tinashe Zimonde, who is the program officer with Mashambanzo Care Trust. Tinashe, we want to find out from you, when we are looking at issues of girls dropping out of school, what would you say are the causes?
Thank you very much, Tari. Thank you very much, listeners. I think the biggest issue that we have is we have cultivated a culture, and we have become comfortable with a culture that disempowers the girl child. And sometimes we are responsible, as a people for the different reasons that lead to the girl child dropping out of school. You find out that, of course, maybe we're in urban areas, some of us, and we think that we've made so much progress when it comes to the inclusion or empowering the girl child. But in some of the areas that we work in, which are quite remote, some of them that are even close to Harare, you talk of areas like Mount Hampton, areas like Nyabira, there is still a lot of disempowerment of the girl child, where a girl child going to school is viewed as a luxury, and a girl child maybe going to school is viewed as something that is not very important, because at the end of the day, acharorwa and the achano benefiting with zinza. So we can as much as well invest in our boy child. So I think one of the biggest issues is to do with the attitudes that we have towards empowering the girl child, and also the attitude that we have when it comes to issues of equality. So as a community, I think one of the biggest causes is that attitude. Then maybe secondly also the issue of poverty. Unfortunately, because of the HIV epidemic, we lost a lot of people that were breadwinners. There was a lot of destruction of our moral order, of our society order. A lot of children lost their parents, and because of that, there's been some form of moral decay that has then come into our communities. So you'd find out that issues of sex for money have now become quite common, and unfortunately, this is also spreading to the girl child. And because there are people within the community who are supposed to be role models for these girls, they probably look up to them and say, but they're doing this, so we'll probably do the same so that we earn a living. They're probably living their life, they're probably maybe dating someone who's taking good care of them, and the young girls then envy that kind of lifestyle, and before you know it, they then drop out of school and pursue a lifestyle that sooner will then they'll then regret that I should have gone to school, I should have completed my education, and then make these decisions after I'm a little bit wise. Then there's also the issue of lack of support generally from the community. Children can be mischievous. Children in growing up, they can do some things that are experimental and end up getting them into trouble. So you'd find out that we've had a lot of girls falling pregnant, particularly during this period of COVID-19. And there's that assumption in our communities that when a girl child is pregnant, she has proven that akuda kuita munhu wemhuri, akuda kuva amai, saka ngaite izvozvo. So we tend to stop supporting them, yet we forget that they are still children. Yes, they're children with children, but they're still children, and they still need that kind of support and that kind of guidance that any child wants. So I think we also make that mistake as communities to say, you know what, they don't deserve to go back to school, they don't deserve our support, they've already made their decisions. But we as adults, I mean, we also make mistakes. And if there's anyone who should understand when they make mistakes, they're children. So I think these are some of the reasons why we have girls dropping out of school. Then one big one, Tari, the issue of labor. You'd find out that within the urban setting, you go to some homes and there are very young girls who are employed there as maids. Vakabva kumusha vachiti vanotsvaga the greener pastures. So they then come to the city, they're employed in these houses as maids, and before you know it, nguva yekuzodzokera kuchikoro hapasisina, atro maid for the rest of her life, and azosangana maybe nemurume, and because she doesn't have enough education, akuta vulnerable, there's then gender-based violence and all those issues that come out of these problems. So I think these are some of the causes that lead to the girl child dropping out of school.
So what needs to be done to address these causes?
Thank you very much, Tari. I think one of the steps that we can take to address the issue of girls dropping out of school is to raise awareness that the girl child is as equally important as the boy child. And when it comes to child rights, they do not select that you are male or you're female. So the definition of a right in itself is it's an entitlement. And what we're saying by that it's an entitlement, we're saying kuti mwana wese, just because mwana anofanira kuwana chakati. I'll give you a very good example that we usually have a debate of rights versus responsibilities when we're talking of child rights. And there's that issue yekuti kokana mwana ari kuita musikanzwa anditika ndinobvunzwa kumurova here ndinobvunzwa tase. There are things that you're allowed to do, but when it comes to child rights, like you can never say kuti because waita musikanzwa you're not going to eat because they have a right to food. That's an entitlement. You can do other things, maybe like take away television, take away their cell phone, but you can never say because you are mischievous, you're not going to school, because that is not a punishment. That's
right.
actually an infringement of their right. So when you're talking of education, regardless of a child, as long as they're below the age of 18, regardless of them falling pregnant, they still have that right to access education. And also, it's not only about upholding the right, it's also about making sure that they have a bright future, because that child also needs to be taken care of. Then there are also other things that we can do that do away with the cultures that we've been practicing. You know, Oliver Mtukudzi saying akati anzi toita sei nechinyakare ichakaipa. Like, we have to address those bad cultures in order to address the issue of these girls dropping out of school.
So what measures have you put in place to combat these issues?
All right. So we, as Mashambanzo, we are trying to capacitate communities, because what happens is these issues, they come out of the communities, and there's need to ensure that the community leaders, the change makers, the gatekeepers of the community, your pastors, your political leaders, they have to own the leadership, so that they address the issues that the girls are facing in these communities. So we need to go in dialogue with those leaders, so that they set up systems and structures to ensure that the girl child is protected and does not drop out of school.
What we need to do is to make sure that the girl child does not drop out of school. Join us after the break. Welcome back. We continue with our discussion, where we are really addressing the issue of girls dropping out of school. Tinashe, one issue that when we are looking at in terms of interventions that should be put in place, we have government implementing comprehensive sexuality education as a way of capacitating young girls, even young boys as well, to make sure that they make informed decisions, which will maybe empower them not to get pregnant early. How have you witnessed the positive impact of comprehensive sexuality education?
Thank you very much, Tari. I think what makes it interesting, the issue of comprehensive sexuality education, when different organizations started advocating for its inclusion in the curriculum, you know, there were a lot of criticisms from parents, from some of the school teachers themselves, that what do you want to teach the children? But I think the difficulty was arising from the lack of communication at home, because when it comes to issues to do with sexual activity, there's someone that has to talk to the child. And if you as a parent are not doing it, because maybe our culture says then someone has to come up and fill in that gap. So comprehensive sexuality education as part of the curriculum in schools has actually helped to open the eyes of the young girls and the young boys, so that they make informed decisions. Why I'm saying that is because you'd find out that the issues to do with sexually transmitted infections is just an idea in a lot of people's minds, and it's something that people never really come to see close to them. But when they actually have practical examples being given to them, they actually then have developed that sense, or that that knowledge that, you know what, if I do this, I might end up falling for this. There's issue to do with cervical cancer. That one of the reasons why people end up having cervical cancer is early sexual debut. So when the girls have an appreciation of that, they understand the dangers of engaging in early sexual debut. So because of that, they can then make an informed decision. You know what? I'm still young, so I shouldn't be getting myself involved in these practices. So it's very important for comprehensive sexuality education to be offered to the young people.
Young people, And when you are looking at government departments, the systems that are there, what are they when we are looking at interventions to fight issues of child abuse?
Thank you very much. So we do have the Department of Social Development, formerly known as the Department of Social Welfare. The department is this department in the government, it's one of its main mandates is to ensure that they deal with the issues of child protection and child safeguarding. So they have systems to place children who are in need of care, to offer them support. Probably they don't have shelter, they can refer them to organizations, they can approve organizations to assist them. So we have a lot of organizations that then come in to complement the government efforts in terms of responding to child abuse, because we also have a tendency of assuming that, you know what, it's the government's responsibility, but we are the people, it's our government, and we are the government anyway. So what we need then to do, even as organizations, as individuals, is to keep complementing those efforts. Then we also have the Ministry of Health and Childcare. They're also making efforts. There've been a lot of talk with issues of the girl child maybe aborting the children, and they're doing this in a harmful way.
Yes.
And there's a lot of deaths that is coming from that, and so there's need for that intervention with education in issues to do with sexual reproductive health that the government is also doing. Then, of course, the Minister of Education, primary and secondary education, we talked about it earlier, that inclusion of comprehensive sexuality education in the curriculum, that is actually a very big achievement, because you'd find out that once you give someone knowledge, you give them power.
Yes.
So that they have the power to make positive decisions in their lives. And as long as we keep taking that route of our government departments coming in with such innovative ways, then I'm sure that we'll go a long way in fighting some of these issues to do with child abuse. Yes.
When you're looking at the issue that you spoke about earlier on, about the need to have rights with responsibility, issues of young girls indulging, for me, really, when I'm talking about a girl child who's still in school, issues of the age of consent, how do we create the balance there?
All right. So I think education should be a priority. And children, by their nature, are vulnerable.
Yes.
Because they do not have the power to make certain decisions. They do not have enough knowledge and experience in life, so they are always vulnerable maybe to fall for deceptions from adults who might want to abuse them. So what I think should be done to strike a balance is we should do everything we can to safeguard these girls from ending up in these troubles in the first place. So what we need to do, let's give them as much information as possible. Let's advocate for the harmonization of our laws. You talked about the issue of age of consent.
Yes.
Let's have one law that then speaks even and supported by our constitution that when girls are below this age, they should not be said to have consented to sex. So if you have sexual intercourse with a girl of this age, it means that you have abused her. So we have to be aggressive about it.
Yeah.
We have to keep advocating for the law to be aggressive about it. And we also have to make sure that the perpetrators of such abuse are brought to justice, because I think that's one of the areas that we are lacking. You hear that a child has been abused, and the next thing you hear that the perpetrator is in the community, probably
Exactly.
actually abusing more children.
Exactly.
So I think we need to take a very aggressive stance, and we need the support from the community, from the government, and everyone who is a stakeholder in terms of our children, which is basically all of us.
All of
So I
us.
think that's what we need to do to ensure that a balance is struck.
And when we are looking at the issue of just girls dropping out of school, what would be your key message to Zimbabweans? I'm looking at parents, I'm looking at even the education system, I'm looking at even the colleagues of that girl who has got pregnant. I'm also even looking at the boy child.
All right. We as a country have a lot to benefit from the girl child. If we empower the girl child together with the boy child themselves, they will grow up to be an empowered generation that will make a very positive change in our community. The issue of education should be prioritized. Why? Because that then forms the basis of empowerment. If someone has basic education up to Form 4, they can make very good and positive decisions concerning their lives. The issues to do with family planning, the issues to do with making decisions for their children when they become mothers, the issues to do with making key decisions in our organizations and our government. We need everyone to put their heads together, and that cannot be achieved without inclusion of the girl child. So we as Zimbabwe, we as everyone, I mean, in the world, there's still a lot that we can do and we should do. to ensure that the girl child is included and they do not drop out of school, because that is one of the most basic fundamentals if you're going to have a bright future.
Indeed, for us to have our girls having a bright future, we need to make sure that their education continues. They do not drop out of school. As individuals, as a country, we need to be supportive. Until next week, it's goodbye.